Were you involved in any discussions with AIG or your staff involved where you discuss what AIG should or should not disclose to the public?
Mr. Chairman, as I said, I had no role in making those decisions. But as the record shows, and the record before the committee shows, a large number of people at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the Federal Reserve Board in Washington played a very active role in thinking through those difficult choices.
But I'm not sure I got an answer there.
Well, may I say again, I personally played no role before the 24th or after in making those decisions. But you asked whether any employees of the New York Fed did. Of course they did.
Okay. When you were the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, when did you recuse yourself from matters involving specific companies, and why did you recuse yourself?
On November 24th, the President announced his intention to nominate me as Secretary of the Treasury. That forced me to make a set of decisions about what was appropriate for me to do, given the unique circumstances of that time. And after consulting with the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, with the Chairman of my board, with my General Counsel, and with a range of other officials, collectively we decided that it was in the best interest of the Fed and the incoming administration for me to remove myself from day-to-day involvement in the Fed's policy issues, to leave that responsibility to my colleagues at the New York Fed, led by the executive, the first vice president of the New York Fed, but not to step down as president. And we made that decision because we wanted to make sure we were protecting the independence of the Fed, and because I was going to be spending by necessity a huge part of my time in helping shape the President's economic agenda, and I was not going to be able to give the care and effort needed to carry on running the Fed on a day-to-day basis. Our judgment was that was the best decision at the time. I'm confident of that in retrospect. It was unique. It was unique, but I don't think it was a better alternative available.
Mm-hmm. Secretary Geithner, I don't think AIG's counterparties should have been paid 100 cents on the dollar. Of course, and in this email we have here, it's on the screen as well, you had some interest in how much the counterparties were owed. Please tell the committee what impact the counterparties' exposure had on your decision to pay 100 cents on the dollar.
Mr. Chairman, that played no role in our decision. As I said in my opening statement, as I testified before, we had to make a difficult choice about what was going to prevent the failure of the firm at least cost to the taxpayer. If we had broken those contracts, if AIG had not paid them in full, if we had threatened default, if we had imposed haircuts, if we had selectively imposed haircuts, that would have brought about a downgrade in its rating, the firm would not have been able to operate, and it would have collapsed. It was because of those choices we took the path we did, to restructure the contracts and leave the taxpayer with some of the potential upside in those securities. Now, judging what is systemic and why a failure of AIG might matter for the system as a whole is a very difficult judgment to make. There's no black and white choice in that context. But our judgment was, as I said in my testimony, that AIG's collapse would have dramatically magnified all the effects you saw in the immediate aftermath of Lehman's failure, and in some ways they would have been more consequential because they would have spread to a set of insurance businesses, and that would have been much worse for the country. So we were guided by a simple but terrible choice: how best to prevent default at least cost the taxpayer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I now yield to the gentleman from California, Ranking Member Congressman Issa.